So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Zaki Hasan to take the microphone and make his presentation for 20 minutes. And remember, I'll invite one question at the end of Mr. Zaki's presentation, and then we move on to the second one.
Thanks, Michael. I think Michael has already given an introduction. I'm not going to spend time on that. Rather, I'll be talking about the organization itself. And as you can see from the name itself, it might really tells what we are and what we're doing. But I'm just going to tell in a very brief that since the beginning and for the last 44 years now, what we have been doing. And the first thing that we do really is to bring the excluded children back to school. That started from the beginning. That's what we're doing right now, and that's what we don't want this to continue. We want all the children from the very beginning to be in the school, and how we are changing ourselves in the changing context, that's the story, and I'm sure that what Michael has asked about the future sustainability will be answered through explaining how we are adjusting ourselves to the future. Once we bring them back to schools, we have schools where we provide education for them. As I'm going to talk about a little about the evolvement of the program, I'll tell exactly what level of education we are doing. Once they finish the education, we provide them skills training, vocational skills training in different trades, in 33 different trades, and then we find them jobs. We do job placement services for them. That's what we do as an organization. Now, it all started after the independence of the country in 1971. So after the independence, we had 70 million population in the country with only 25% enrollment in the primary school, and many children were out of school. Majority of them were involved in child labor. So there were working children, a very high number. And we as a country, a newborn country, had a lot of things to struggle to survive. We did not have concentration on them. Fortunately, there were foreign friends who came in. Like this organization actually was a social entrepreneurship of a New Zealander guy who came in and started a small school with 56 boys only with the support from Oxfam. And now we are 56,000 children every year. That's what we're serving, which is we are not proud about because we are worried that why still we have to serve so many of children. But unfortunately, we still have 2.6 million children out of the school at this moment. Now, one of the great things was that this organization was just not a whimsical approach to anything. This was started with a study that was conducted by one of the universities and a very systematic approach of starting the school. We moved from the boys to all children, including the girls, and girls has become a priority for us over the years. From one school in 1972, now we have 65 schools and training centers across the country in all the major urban locations in Bangladesh. Now, if we have to talk about the future, as Michael asked, we have to know the past and how we adjust ourselves, because sustainability can be very time-specific. Sustainability can be for eternity. But when we are doing work for 44 years and still trying to get finance, we are getting finance, we are getting other support, that means there are certainly some social needs that we are fulfilling. There are some effectiveness of the program that working, and how we have really made ourselves, kept ourselves that way. This is the story that I am trying to tell here. Now, when we started with the 56 boys back in 1972, it was like all for the working boys in a shelter home and some non-formal schooling. Eventually, after 11 years, we started feeling that, only non-formal education is not changing these children when they're growing up. They're not going for a better livelihood. So in 1983, we started giving them training. When we were giving them training, the economy of the country was in a situation that was not really offering a lot of job in the country. So we had to really search job for these children who are coming from very underprivileged communities. They are not really backed up by their connections and networks that they can find jobs from. So we had to start our job placement service in 1991. We had to build a team. We had to keep sending them to the industries and keep telling them that, help them to find a job. And the arguments at that point of time that we were providing them was that these are underprivileged, they need your support, blah, blah, blah. Over the years, the country has gone up economically. Our GDP has been 5.5% consistent over the last 17 years. A lot of industry has come in, a lot of job opportunities have opened up. So fortunately, now we are facing a sweet problem. The sweet problem is that a lot of industries are coming to us, asking for laborers. Now, what they're demanding is not underprivileged. What they're demanding is really high-skilled labor. And that's how we are trying to change our program quality in terms of moving away from just giving them any kind of training to really a training that is industry demand driven. That's one of the future sustainability factor. the problem is, even today morning when we are looking at the OSCE study, a lot of the factors discussed in this study or would be discussed in this study are factors outside schools. And when many projects are designed, many government projects, NGO projects, they often focus too much in the schools. But for the girls, for persons with disabilities, for underprivileged communities, the factors that are influencing outside at the community has to be dealt in a way. And for many years, we have not really addressed that in that way. And we suffered in terms of bringing them, keeping them, motivating their parents, helping them, getting the local supports. So eventually, we had to form a special community mobilization team whose exclusive job is to continuously, talk to community, convince them, bring them in, and also try to find some local resources to continue our programming. So that's the community mobilization we have to adopt it over the years to keep our program effective. When we started with 56 boys, some ABCD, learning, literacy, everything was good. That time has changed. Now the education expectancy, that has gone up. The parents want their children a formal certification. The industries are looking for formal certification. The children themselves are looking to see themselves in the public results, see themselves, compare themselves, irrespective of exactly from which part of the community they are coming from. So we also have to change ourselves from a very non-formal education approach to a mixed approach. So when we brought them back, we tried to find a bridge where they can participate in the public examination system. Over the last few years, we were able to successful. The government was welcoming children from the non-formal sector to participate in the public examination system. So when we provide them flexible learning timing, opportunities, and other supports, we are also able to offer them certification. And that was a motivation factor for the community. The success in primary education at the national level is very huge in Bangladesh. From a 24 to 5% enrollment to a 95% net enrollment and maybe more than 100% of gross enrollment. But the quality, and if I talk quality at the very, very primary level, the basic literacy, that has not been achieved. And when we find this low quality learning outcome children in our training program, they suffer to learn from the skills training. They suffer to learn from continuing education, continuing learning need, even in their jobs. So recently we started doing a literacy remedial program because we said that we cannot really, change the quality of education in the whole country. That's a very big thing, very global, macro, national thing. What we could do, we could really help them to improve whatever literacy skills either they never got as they never went to school or if they were dropped out. So we try to provide them a literacy upbringing through a remedial program. As I said, the industries are no more interested about only underprivileged. They are interested about high skill. And the competency framework that many of you are aware, happening over the years with the TVET framework and other things, the CBTA, the competency-based training and assessment, we also have to adopt those into our programming so we can remain effective, we can continue supply effective workforce to the industry. Because as an organization, we believe we are dealing two problems. One is that underprivileged children don't have a scope for education and livelihood, and then the industry is not having adequate skilled labor. So our social entrepreneurship is about trying to link these two problems. Now, if we talk at the very broad level, there are two big successes that we see as an organization. We are able to bring in lot of children back to schools. And the second one is that we are able to give 95% of them an employment after their education and training cycle. Now, in the education, we are able to make this success. There are many factors, but in general, we believe that the passion of the organization was number one factor. Many government projects took the models of these non-profits and tried to implement the project. And eventually, some of these projects failed, and they wonder what is the reason. Well, I say one of the reasons was that the passion in these projects are invisible, are not, exist in the way people, those who are social entrepreneurs, are trying to do it. So that we always recognize as one big factor. The second one was the community awareness activities. So every education and training program for the underprivileged has to have some component where they have a community awareness activities. We have proximity and mobility support. We try to establish schools closer to the communities, or for the bigger training centers, we have transport services. We had every day 58 buses running. 4 times across the cities to pick children from their homes. And this is very important, especially for the girls and the persons with disabilities. There is a linkage to employment. So when we're trying to bring back like overage children, and some of them are already working, they have to see that with this education and training, they'll be able to improve their livelihood. Otherwise, they might not be interested to come back. There are flexible shifts. There are like 3 shifts a day. You can attend any shift in any day. It doesn't matter, because we keep doing the same thing in all the 3 shifts. So it's up to you exactly what time you want to come in any of the days. It has to be free of cost. If you are like charging a cost for the education, that even goes against our values, our international commitments, national commitments, and all these things. And I talked about the scopes of getting formal certification. Now, the second success that we claim is about giving 95% of them an employment. So we said that dedication always on the top, but then we have a dedicated team. Employment doesn't really happen like that. So there has to be a dedicated team. There's an education team and there's an employment team. So this team's continuous job is to make a relationship with the employer, not only to find employment, but also to know exactly what kind of skills the industries are looking for. We have a structured approach. So there are like employers forum, sectoral forums that meet regularly to tell us what is changing in the industry, technology-wise, or even what are the other attitude they are expecting from the trainees and all this. One of the appreciation that we often receive from the employers is that our graduates are, they have a teamwork attitude, they're well-disciplined, their time consciousness is very high. So all these soft skills has to be built into an employment programming. Otherwise, the employers will not only look at the good skill, bad attitude workers. We continuously change our courses. That's like almost every year. So if there's not high demand on a certain industry, we don't feel shy to shut down the program and change it to another course. And that demands a lot of flexibility from the donor side. And we are fortunate that many of our donors are, like over the years, believe on us. So they allow us to change the courses. And this also in link to the capacity of the instructors and the equipments that you have and all the other facilities. Formal certification has become an important thing. An apprenticeship, that's something without which education, training, and apprenticeship, a trainee cannot become a good worker just after going from the training institute to a workplace. Apprenticeship is not still happening very high, especially for the underage training graduates. Those who are not 18, they often suffer to get an proper employment. So getting an apprenticeship for them is very important, but not many industries are really interested about that. The last slide on this are the key of the challenges, opportunities, and the strategies that we are taking. The first one is urbanization, exclusion, and countries preparation. I don't know if you are aware that Bangladesh is the second country of the whole world after Delhi, which has the highest rate of urbanization. 74 persons every day is joining the city. And is the country prepared for that? We keep talking about 2.6 million dropout children or excluded children. This number will increase radically in some of these cities like Delhi and Dhaka, because these cities don't have schools. They don't have proper facilities for them. So how we are preparing for them, even for us as an organization, that's the struggle that we look. We have a demographic dividend opportunity. So, majority of the population of the country at this point is in the working age group. So we hope that if we can encash that, over the next 50 years, we will be able to economically progress. So the puzzle of economic development of Bangladesh is linked to the skills development of this working age population. We keep talking about skills, employment, but what about the social value creation? Because we see a lot of risk in that. We see people are getting, their inspiration, everything is about becoming richer or, more comfortable life. But is the education system and in training, this skills kind of training is really adequate? Do they offer adequate opportunity to create the social values? So when education people think a lot about that, I think as a TVET practitioner, I believe that TVET people are not focusing a lot on the social value creation, and that's something we really need to look at. I think Michael's favorite question, who is going to finance this? For the second chance education, we really struggle to find any answer about that. But for the skills training, we have a right answer, the private sector, because we are supplying labors to them. And it is an obvious thing that will happen. We have already started to make it happen, because many of the small industries, multinational companies, they are starting to invest in these skills. So we believe even if Bangladesh has become a developed country, all the donors have went out from the country, we will still be able to run the skills training because the need of skills will always be required. So we are not worried about the sustainability of UCEP from the training point of view, but from the education point of view, there has to be financing from donors and other organizations. Without the quality of education, and that is not only a matter of like organization like UCEP, and national quality of education is, I will say globally, that's a big cry, and I'm not going to talk about it, you all are experts here. If that's not a solution happening, the whole training, employment, everything is in trouble. We are going to hit a disaster because of the quality of education is not maintained properly. The skills training, that's something we continuously say that there has to be a good partnership between private sector and these kind of organization to make the training programs effective. And without a proper, we never are going to supply graduate from our institutes as an underprivileged anymore. He was or she was an underprivileged. But once the person is graduating, we want to recognize that person as a high-skilled, very quality-skilled person. And that's the vision and the value for the organization. The number one challenge that we continuously face, and I'm sure that in education you all know it, in skills as well, the quality of instructors and teachers. And even when you talk about training of them, who is going to provide this training to them? And we're talking about millions of instructors that we need over the years globally to really support the education and employment linkage. With that, I would like to thank you for your kind listening, and I hope I have maintained the time. So thank you. So, for the next 10 years, we just brought out our strategic planning where we talked about all these things that is just said and how we are envisioning ourselves for the next 10 years. If any of you are interested, I have a few copies with me. Maybe after the session, you can collect it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Hasan.